Today on Locked On Dolphins, an exploration into the recent history of draft trades on day 2 of the NFL draft and what that may mean for the Dolphins in their effort to potentially add more draft picks to their stockpile for the end of the month.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, decade-long draft Nick, your host here on Locked On Dolphins, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast with Joe Marino, a podcast dedicated to team building. I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Dolphins the first Miami Dolphins listen of the day, part of your daily routine. Welcome to the Everyday Club, everybody who makes Miami Dolphins Locked On Dolphins discussion part of your day every day. Thanks for joining the show. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Today on the show, pretty excited. We did a 3-year study, 3-year sample size of draft day trades on day 2 of the NFL draft. 2020, 2021, 2022. And in each of the second and third round, respectively, across the last 3 years, you have 15 trades that happened on draft day that included only draft capital. And the objective is this discussion and this idea that Miami might be interested in adding more draft capital to the mix. They might want to trade down, get more picks, have more opportunities to add players. If they want to do that, what does that look like? What are the recent histories of trading down in the second round and trading down in the third round? And what kinds of returns have those teams gotten when they've made those decisions? Furthermore, who are the teams that are most often making those kinds of maneuvers? Who are the likely candidates? And we got to cross-reference that versus the draft capital that all of these teams are actually scheduled to have in 2 weeks. So it's a fun conversation. There's a lot of layers to it, and we're going to dive into it here on Locked On Dolphins. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of the NFL. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So I have a table off on the side here, and not a table that you eat on or sit at, a spreadsheet, and it's got every team's picks scheduled for this upcoming NFL draft. It has their ranks according to the trade value chart of how much total draft capital they have, and then in columns further down, it illustrates the times in round 2 in which they have traded up in the round, times in round 2 where they have traded down in the round, times in the third round that they've traded up in the round, and times in the third round that they've traded down in the round between the 2020, 2021, and 2022 NFL drafts. Seeing what teams are most frequently making this move gives you an idea of what teams you might want to have on speed dial when Friday rolls around on the 28th. But here are, across the last 3 seasons, the round 2 draft day trades that feature only draft picks. In 2022, you had the Packers and Vikings trading 34 to Green Bay for 53 and 59 to Minnesota. The Vikings in the same year received 42 and 122 for 53, 77, and 92. So Minnesota traded back from 32 to 53 and then up to 42. Okay, 2 trades involving the same team. The Cleveland Browns traded down from 44 with the Houston Texans and received 68, 108, and 124. The Kansas City Chiefs traded down from 50, that was the Dolphins pick, for 54 and 158. And the Buffalo Bills twice traded down. They traded down from 57 to 60 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and received pick 180, and they traded down from 60 to 63 and picked up 209 as well. So Buffalo, in 2 successive trades in a span of 3 picks, went from 57 to 63 and added 180 and 209. Not all of these trades are relevant, but it's important to outline the trades that have happened because it gives you an idea with the Dolphins picking at 51 what kind of range of compensation you might be able to get depending on how far down the board you're willing to move. So those were the 2022 trades. I'm going to do the 2021 and then the 2020s, and we're going to talk about the teams that most frequently move. In 2021, the Falcons traded down from 35 to 40 for 114, but they also sent 219 back, so that was a two-pick for two-pick swap. The Cincinnati Bengals traded down from 38 with the New England Patriots. They went to 46 and got 122 and 139 in addition to 46. The Carolina Panthers traded down from 39 for 52, 83, and 204, but they also sent 151. The Miami Dolphins traded up from 50 to 42. This was the Liam Eichenberg deal, and the pick that they sent in return was a future 3. So they went up 8 spots, sent a future 3. It's actually one of the better values. I will give Chris Greer credit for that. No same-year capital versus a lot of these other deals in the same stratosphere to go 13 spots. Included a third-round pick in that same year's draft. So credit to Chris Greer for that. And then the Carolina Panthers traded down from 52 to 59 and got 89, but sent back 113 as well. So the Panthers, in 2022, it was the Bills that traded down twice in the same year. In 2021, it was the Panthers going from 39 to 59. So they went down 20 spots, and they added 83, 89, and 204 as a result. So they added 2 third-round picks to go from 39 to 59. Now, that won't be in play for the Dolphins because obviously the Dolphins are currently scheduled to pick 51. And then in 2020, the Browns traded down from 41. They went to 44 and got 160 back. The Jets traded down from 48 with the Seahawks and got 59 and 101. Put a star next to that one. I want to come back and talk about that one. The Patriots traded up from 71 with the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens went down from 60, and the Ravens got 71 and 98, and then the Ravens also sent 129. So that was a two-pick swap. It was a late 2 for 2 threes, a late 2 and a 4 for 2 threes. And then the Seattle Seahawks traded down from 64 and went to 69 and got 148 in return in 2020 as well. So from a trends perspective, the team that has been the most aggressive in trading up in the second round across the last 3 seasons has been the New England Patriots. They've traded up 3 times, once in each of the last 3 drafts to go get a player. Up from 54 to 50, up from 46 to 38, and up from 71 to 60. Now, the Dolphins showcase with the Devontae Parker stuff, they're not adverse to doing business with the New England Patriots. But every other team that's been involved in these maneuvers across the entire NFL, no team has traded up in the second round in just a pick swap on draft day more than once. So you're, mathematically speaking, 3 times likelier to get a yes from the Patriots than you would be for somebody else, assuming the Patriots have somebody on the board that they want, because that's always the motivating factor that you have to be able to account for. But I think that's really interesting to know, because the Patriots have not had a regime change. It's the same person that's been conducting these drafts. There's a pretty good success rate of getting business done with the New England Patriots, and the Dolphins have shown a willingness to do that. So just file that away, and we're going to talk about, all of the likelihoods and teams that we can find inspiration from as far as moving down, because as we said, the Bills twice traded down in 2022. The Panthers twice traded down in 2021. I don't know that necessarily you have enough wiggle room, unless you're willing to drop out of the second round altogether, for Miami to achieve that, unless it looks like what Buffalo did, where they went down 6 spots total and got 180 and 209, like late day 3 picks. The trade that I think is most relevant to Miami, there's 2. That Patriots-Chiefs trade from last year, 50 for 54 and 158. You get a 5. You go down 4 spots, you get a 5. So if Miami goes to 55 and you pick up a 5th-round pick, we'd mark it down as a historical win. And it's a player that is better than where your next 2 picks after day 2 are currently scheduled to come. And then there's the 10 pick drop if the Dolphins go to the very end of the second round, say they really don't like who's on the board, you could potentially get a third-round pick. You could get another third-round pick. That's the Seattle and the Jets in 2020. Jets going from 48 to 59 and picking up 101, which is a compensatory 3. That's the range. You go down a little bit, you might get a 5. You go down a lot, you might get a 3. So anywhere in there is fair game for the Dolphins, depending on who's on the board and how it breaks. Now, the other part of this puzzle that we have to piece together, which we're going to do at the end of today's show, is who has the capital currently scheduled plus the tendency to overlap enough for you to say, aha, that's our candidate. That's our most likely candidate from a assets and a probability and a behavior perspective. And we're going to talk about round 3 next and do the same thing that we just did here. But before we do, got to tell you about our friends over at Built Bar, because Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. These things are high in protein, high in fiber, low in calories, low in sugar. They're absolutely positively delicious. They have 100% chocolate on all of their bars. They have a slew of delicious flavors and a slew of ways that you can add it to your cabinet. You can go to Built.com, pick yourself up a box. You could go to Walmart, head to the pharmacy section, get yourself a 4-bar box, and don't look back. Or you can go to Sam's Club. You could pick up yourself the 13-bar box, which is enough for you to eat one on the way home and still have a dozen and feel good that you'll last a couple days before you got to go back to Sam's Club and get another box. So head to Built.com, go to Walmart, go to Sam's Club, pick yourself up a box of Built. Thank me later. Round 3. Same deal. 15 trades the last 3 years of draft day trades that are exclusively draft capital. So no players being traded, nothing that was done ahead of the draft. It's draft day trades as you're seeing the board fall and break your way. The good news is there's more versatility in your candidates here than there is in the second round. The Patriots have a monopoly on frequency of draft day trades. You're going to find several teams that have moved in the third round multiple times over the last 3 years. And there's some level of stability with the organizations and the decision makers who were a part of those decisions and them still being in place. So the first thing we have to do is we have to read through the trades that have happened. There were 4 from 2020. You're going to notice a trend here real quick. The Broncos traded down from 75 to 80 and got 162 in return. The Raiders traded down from 86 to 90 and got 169 in return. The Patriots traded down from 94 to 137 and got a future 3 from the Panthers. And then the Broncos traded down from 96 to 179 and got a future 3 as well. So 2 instances in the third round where teams were willing to do what the Dolphins were able to get the Giants to do in 2021 in the second round. Your big asset is a next year pick, and you're going to take a day 3 pick in return. Not really the pathway I'd imagine for the Dolphins. But how about the Broncos? They traded down twice. They had multiple picks in the third round. They traded down from each of them and added an extra 5, and then they added a future 3. Keep an eye on the Broncos. In 2021, the Eagles traded down from 70 to 73 for pick 191 in return. So you're seeing a lot of handful of spots, get an extra 6 thus far. The Broncos, again, the Broncos traded down from 71 to 76 and got 164 in return. The Broncos traded down from 76 to 98 and got 105. So the Broncos, in 2 consecutive years, under their current GM, George Paton, traded down in the third round twice. And in 2021, when they did it, they took 71 and turned 71 into 98, 105, and 164. Again, Miami has a little less wiggle room, but that's not totally unfeasible if they want to play the game and do that. And then also in 2021, 3 more trades. The Titans trading down from 85 to 92 and getting 135. They get a really good value. That's a 4th round pick to go down 7 spots. Some of these other teams that were trading back earlier, just a handful of spots, were getting 6s. The Rams traded down from 88 with the San Francisco 49ers and got 117 and 121, so 2 high 4th round picks. And then the Carolina Panthers traded down from 89 to 109, 158, and a future 4 with the Houston Texans. Broncos, team that likes to trade down under George Payton. It's worth acknowledging. Now, the 2020 group, the Browns traded down from 74 to 88 and got a future 3 from the Saints. The Colts traded down from 75 with the Detroit Lions and got 85, 149, and 182. The Patriots traded up with the Raiders from 100 to 91. There was a slew of picks involved there. It was 91 and 159 for 100, 139, and 172. The Patriots traded up again with the Jets. They traded up from 125 to 101, and the Jets also got 129 and a future 6. And then the last deal across these 3-year sample size, the Saints traded up with the Vikings. Minnesota sent 105, which is a very end of the third round pick, and the Vikings received from the Saints 130, 169, 203, and 244. So the Broncos are a team that likes to trade down. We're making a note of this not because that's a team that the Dolphins are likely to do business with unless they want to move up, but more so, that's the playbook. The Broncos in consecutive years on trade downs in the third round picked up 162, a future 3, 164, 105. Not a small amount of draft capital that they added to the blocks. Now, that could be challenging if there's another team that's in contention to trade down. So when you're looking at the draft queue and the draft order, you kind of have to keep an eye out for, okay, is Denver a threat to steal your trade down opportunity? The good news is there's more willing participants to trade up in the third round. The Panthers have done it twice in the last 3 seasons. And both times that they did it was with Scott Fitterer, the current GM. The Houston Texans have traded up twice, once in 2022 and once in 2021. And both of those happened with Nick Caserio, their current general manager, although some whisperings that might not be a long-term arrangement. Caserio's traded up in the third round twice for players. The New England Patriots, the most frequent team to trade up with just picks on draft day in the second round, have twice traded up in the third round over the last 3 years. The New Orleans Saints have done it 3 times. So you have a number of teams, the Texans, the Panthers, the Patriots, and the Saints, who are all willing participants of third round trade ups if the Dolphins are looking to trade down from 84. How do these teams and their actual assets line up is the magic question, and what we are going to discuss here as we bring this episode of Locked On Dolphins to a close. The Houston Texans have more draft capital at their disposal than any other team in the league, according to the trade value charts. They have 2, 12, 33. None of that's relevant for Miami. And they have 65, 73, 104, 161, 188, 201, 203, 230, 259. So the picks that are relevant, the Texans, they did the multiple trade-ups in the third round, but they also did do a trade-up in 2020. They went up and got Jalen Petrie, the safety, in the second round. So the first pick that the Dolphins have that's in front of a Texans pick is 51, and Houston's first pick after that is 65. So you're talking getting out of the second round altogether. If you're going to fall that far, the expectation is probably that you would get 73. So you would have 65, 73, and 84, and maybe you could coax one of those 6th-round picks out of them too if you send back 238. So there's an opportunity there. The New England Patriots, they like to trade up. They've traded up a bunch of times in the second round. Their first currently scheduled pick in the second round is 46. It's in front of Miami. Now, that's not to say they couldn't get to 51, but they have 76, 107, 117, 135. I don't think the math's really going to work out there for an early trade back from Miami. Now you have the pick at 84. Could the Patriots offer you 107, 117, and 184 for 84? Would you take it? Probably depends on what the board looks like. But based off of the recent trades in the third round, that's probably the one that's most relevant for you. The ones that I had flagged as the assets that were flipped that were most relevant to the Dolphins, there were 3. The Raiders trading back from 86 with the Titans last year, and they got 90 and 169. So you're getting like a 5. The Packers trading up from 92, 7 spots to 85, and they sent the Titans 135. That's a dream come true scenario. To slide back just a handful of spots for Miami's purposes, I mean, you're staying in the top 90 and you would get a 4. You got to hope somebody wants to do that, but you got to find somebody who has a pick within 8 spots of 84 that wants to come up to your spot. And then when the Rams traded back from 88 to 117 and 121, that's what the Patriots would be able to offer you. Because the Dolphins have 84, the pick involved in that trade was 88, and the Patriots have 117. They could offer you 107 and 117 or 117 and 135. Straight up for 84, and it's a pretty significant parallel to that Rams 49ers trade from 2021. The other frequent flyer, if you will, is the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are a tough one because their pick in the second round is at 40, and their pick in the third round is at 71. So the Saints are the team that most frequently trades up in the third round, but their pick is 13 spots in front of Miami. And they don't have a ton of extra capital behind it. They have 115, 146, and 165. Now, of course, any team could say, well, we'll give you a future year's pick to do the deal now, and it'll be a better return on investment. You just have to wait 12 months. So any one of these teams is a feasible team to pull that card out if they absolutely love a player. But just looking at the tendencies and what assets overlap, you don't see a ton of opportunities beyond, I think, Houston's your best one. Carolina is interesting, and Carolina is one that I think you could see. Carolina has not been afraid to be aggressive in years past. They've traded up in the third round twice. Their third round pick is at 93. It's 9 spots behind Miami. In the fourth round, they have 114 and 132, and then in the fifth round, they have 145. But to go down 10 spots at that juncture, in my mind, it costs you 114 plus something else, but the Panthers don't have anything after 145. So is it 93, 114, and a future 5, hypothetically? Would that move the needle for the Dolphins? It probably would for me. So I think you've got a modest opportunity with the Panthers. I think you've got a decent opportunity with the Patriots. I think the Texans are your best team based off of the overlap of what assets they have, what their behavior has been, and where they align versus the Dolphins in the draft order right now. But I think your third round action is going to be a lot more buzzy than your second round action unless you have a doomsday scenario that manifests at 51. Because I do think there will be a player on the board for the Dolphins at 51 that would be tempting. I think the math is lining up favorably as I'm continuing to work my way through the evaluations, which is what we're going to get back to next on our next episode of Locked On Dolphins. So make sure you keep it locked in here on Locked On Dolphins. It's your team every day. I appreciate you guys who make Locked On Dolphins a part of your daily routine, the everydayers. If you're not a part of the Everyday Club, go ahead and hit subscribe, follow along, and make us a part of your daily staple and your daily rotation because we are your team every day here on the Locked On Network. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Fins up. Make it a great rest of your day. We're going to be back tomorrow with some more content, so I hope to see you then. Peace.